Newly appointed Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says after more than 2 decades as a councillor, he understands what it takes to improve local government. Hlabisa, who's the leader of the IFP, was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa on Sunday as part of the new cabinet to lead the government of national unity. Let's discuss this appointment with Contralesa's Secretary General, Zolani Mkiva, who joins us now via our video link for his reactions to specifically this appointment. Great to have you on the SABC, sir. Thanks very much indeed for your time. No overstating just how important this particular portfolio is, given the myriad of issues that we're still grappling with in our democracy. Is this the right man, you reckon, to help us undo some of those knots?
No, thank you very much, Ayanda. We can only hope for the best. I know him personally, and he is a person who is down to earth, who has a very strong cultural background, who understand the issues at local level, as you have indicated. He's been a councillor for a while, but he comes from a cultural background. He also understands the institution of traditional leadership very well. We can hope that the politics of ideology will not override the issues that needs to be done. And he has got a very good team with him. The Minister, Masemula, he also has the same background. The Deputy Minister, Zolile Namashe, also has a strong background. He comes from royalty himself. So we are hoping that he is going to do his level best, supported by the 2 deputy ministers, to ensure that he turns around a local municipality. And he also does what is needed in the rural communities of South Africa.
Yeah. Contralesa had, in the lead up to the announcement on Sunday, spoken about wanting to have more of a voice in discussions around this government of national unity. I wonder, now that the cabinet has been announced, whether you feel adequately represented by the 3 men that you've just described, who it seems you're pleased with.
Well, I think that we will continue to seek for the improvement and the involvement, and including the mainstreaming of traditional leadership in government at national, provincial, and even at local level. I mean, we can't be crybabies. We have to work with what we have. I think the team that is there, we will give it our support, but our engagement with the ANC as a governing party will continue, because we believe that foregrounding the institution of traditional leadership and bringing the wisdoms that are encapsulated in the indigenous knowledge system, in terms of ensuring that we influence the policy texture of the country, but also how we roll out, and implement legislation, including service delivery, because nothing can happen without that harmonization between the institution of traditional leadership and the political leadership. And that's the point we're making, that at all material times, we're an African country, and the institution of traditional leadership is very embedded in our society, and it has legitimacy and credibility in the eyes of the people, and therefore it can't be relegated to the background. That point will continue to work to make, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to work closely with those that have been appointed. We will work closely with them, and we will interact with them, and we will seek to support them at all material times, so that what they do at the end of the day, it resonates with our expectations on the ground, and it's about carrying out the aspirations of our people in order to better their lives. So we are hopeful that the new team that has been put into that portfolio is constituted by people who are part of the talented patriots of our country. And all we have to do is to ensure that we give them the necessary support. And what I like about it is that this portfolio is very central, because it's about coordination of the entire governance system. It's about ensuring that there's cooperative governance in terms of letter and spirit and what actually gets done. No departments must work in silos. Governance is about putting all the hands on the deck, and that needs to be done literally. People must not pull this way and that way. We should all work towards the same objective, and the objective is to ensure that we turn around the situation in our country in order to better the lives of our people and build a prosperous future for this country.
Yeah.
We've got all what it takes as South Africa to be a superpower.
No doubt there's great potential in this country. You started off our discussion by speaking about or warning against ideologies perhaps kind of superimposing itself on how these ministers do their work. And in places like KwaZulu-Natal, the IFP has often been accused of blurring the lines when it comes to the political work that needs to be done and, for example, supporting the AmaZulu traditional house, just as an example. I mean, can you speak to us a bit more about where you reckon the lines of demarcation ought to be drawn here? Because whilst, yes, South Africa has a sizable population of people who believe in traditional leadership and in fact see themselves in that space, we make a huge mistake when we think of that space as being homogenous and not contested.
Well, definitely it is a contested space, but it has hegemony in the South African society because it's part and parcel of our heritage, it's part and parcel of our culture as well as tradition. There has to be support that is given to the institution of traditional leadership, and that should not be done as a favor. It is actually the right, because the institution of traditional leadership is an organ of people's power. Like I mentioned, that people pay allegiance, and it is not just a small fraction of the South Africans who pay allegiance to the institution of traditional leadership. The millions and millions of our people are committed in paying allegiance to these leaders because they are their spiritual leaders, they are their cultural leaders, but they are also political leaders in the sense that they are the custodians of land. It is traditional leaders who are responsible for the administration and governance of almost all rural communities of South Africa, and they stand in front in terms of championing development, in terms of protecting our heritage and culture, in terms of ensuring that we mainstream that which represents us as a people, the antiquity and the uniqueness of our own cultural outlook. It is embodied in the institution of traditional leadership. So it's very important that we don't cast aspersions between what is expected of the institution of traditional leadership. That's why we talk about harmonizing the system, ensure that the system is Africanized, is localized, and leave politics that are infested with ideologies that emanate from the West. And we're not opposed to good practices and good ideas that come from the West, but they must not be superimposed. They must be infused within our own cultural outlook. In the end, at the end of the day, we are Africans, and we will be at our best when we do things in an African way, because that's where our sophistication is actually entrenched. And I think that's what Contralesa calls about, is that we must not go and import things, and yet we've got brilliance and intelligence here in the local front.
Right.
We must invoke the indigenous knowledge system in what we do, and I think our sophistication is right there, and our success can also be found through that location of the indigenous knowledge.
Yeah, look, even with the best of intentions, Velenkosini Hlabisa and his team won't be able to solve everything all at once, given just how many issues they can focus on. I wonder what you reckon should be within their radar in the first 100 days.
I think the state of municipalities needs to be looked at. They need to come up with a turnaround strategy. And I think politics aside, we must make local government to work optimally, efficiently, and effectively. So professionalization must be overemphasized, actually. There shouldn't be a compromise insofar as that is concerned. The finances of the country at the local level, starting there, we must ensure that the administration is improved, and we leave no stone unturned insofar as that is concerned. But most importantly, speaking for our sector, the institution of traditional leadership should also be prioritized. We must immediately ensure that all the traditional councils are constituted. That matter has been left too long in abeyance, so they need to deal with that. They must also ensure that they give budgets to those traditional councils. Secondly, there should be a standardization of what is being given as support to all the kingdoms of the country, and that should be done in a manner that is equitable to ensure that these kingdoms do what they have to do and do it, efficient. There must be efficacy insofar as that concern. So we expect that they prioritize that the support that needs to be given to traditional leadership with agricultural equipments, everything that is going to ensure that people go back and tilt their land. We need inspiring leaders. We hope that this team will inspire our people to ensure that they don't want to be spoon-fed, they don't want to wait for government to give them goodies. People must be motivated to do the work. They must also play their part, because leaders alone will not transform South Africa. People themselves must work together with leadership to ensure that we pull our country forward.
All right, Zolani Mkiva is Contralesa's Secretary General. We appreciate your reaction there. Thanks very much indeed for your time.